Hi, Amalia.
Hi. Oh my gosh.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It's so nice to see your beautiful face
Thank you. It's
again.
so nice to see you too. It's been like, oh my God, how many years has it been?
Many years. So, what grade are you going into in September?
I'm gonna be a sophomore, so 10th grade.
That is wild. You're still fifth grader to me. Hope that's okay. So, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it, especially during your summer break. I get to know now, I've been interviewing former students. I've also interviewed other adults that I just think are in unique professions. And I just asked them the question of what they wish they would have learned while they were in school.
Yeah.
What is something that you wish you would have learned up until this point?
In the past, like I've been doing a lot of creative projects in school and out of school.
Mm-hmm.
And three things that I think I wish I like learned in school were just kind of life skills and how to stand on my own 2 feet. Mental health, and mental health also kind of ties into the other one, which is work-life balance or having a good work-life balance.
So, what happened that made you realize this is something you maybe were not as prepared for as you should have been?
So, obviously, I'm going to be graduating high school in like 3 years. Then I'm going to be going to college. I'm going to live by myself, and then after that, I'm going to get a job and hopefully have my own place. And I'm
Yeah.
going to be living by myself, and I'm going to have to support myself financially and things like that. So I feel like I was thinking about it recently, and I was like, wait, I don't really know how to do any of the things that my parents do to support like me and my sister and just us as a family financially. And I kind of wish that we learned from an earlier age like how to do that. Or I hope or I kind of want to start learning it maybe now in high school so that
Okay.
I can be prepared so that because it's happening like sooner now.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
doesn't seem so far away anymore, right? It's becoming
Yeah.
more real for you.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think can be done at an earlier age? Because, of course, you're going into your 10th grade.
Yeah.
But for your younger years, how do you think it could be incorporated? Because some people might argue that, you don't really need to worry about it until you're at least later in, high school, because that's when you're going to start thinking about college. I would argue, and I think you would agree, that that conversation should have started a lot sooner than high school.
Yeah.
So how do you think you could probably start that conversation?
I think honestly, just learning about like managing money, how to save,
Mm,
and then like how to save like responsibly.
mhm.
Um, and I also think maybe just starting the conversation of like what's gonna happen when you're older. And I know like your class really did like we talked about it a little bit with the whole resume project and like starting like finding a job, like
Yeah.
hypothetically. Yeah, so I think that was honestly really helpful.
Okay, good.
But yeah, I think just learning how to manage money, learning even like the basics on how to just do life skills, I guess.
Just even having a realistic idea of how much money it actually even costs to survive and live the lifestyles that we do live is an important thing
Yeah.
to present, I think.
Yes, exactly.
Now, you mentioned work-life balance, which I think that in America is something we're still working towards achieving.
Yeah.
What inspired that?
Okay, so now that I'm in high school, obviously I have like a ton more exams and I have like
Yep, more
a lot more
responsibility.
stress on me because now the grades that I'm getting they actually count for something instead of it just being like A grade. So I think now I'm trying to learn how to de-stress when I
Mm,
need to. And also again that also ties into the mental health
mental
part.
health.
I I wish we started learning about how to create healthy ways to again de-stress and just take enough breaks.
Mm.
Personally, I think I'm doing a pretty good job of it just by myself, like learning. Yeah.
What advice would you give to younger students about how to create certain healthy boundaries, like you mentioned, and how to create more balance? Because when you're younger, I'm sure you remember, there's a lot of stress that you put on yourself. There's a lot of, if I don't do this, then I'm going to fail at life, and
Yeah.
it's not that serious. So how do you?
I
advice?
think things that I've learned is, especially when you're studying for like exams, you're doing something really important, like writing something super important, like an article for a magazine or something like that. Just take breaks when you need them. Like
Mm,
I remember this past year, I was studying for my chemistry final, and that was really, really stressful for me.
mhm.
And I remember taking like hour-long breaks just to watch TV. And I think that just really helped me recharge.
Yep.
And also, don't like, I know this is hard, but like, don't stress about things that aren't super important. Like, I know for me, whenever I get a bad grade, obviously, like, I feel kind of bad.
Naturally.
But in the long run, I feel like it doesn't really matter too much. Like, as long as you're doing decent in school and you're not completely flunking, I think that it's not going to matter. Like if you bomb a test, it's not really a big deal. Or if you don't achieve that thing that you wanted to achieve, it's okay. You still have time to do it.
How does one know in the moment what's important and what's not? Because I think when you're younger,
Uh-huh.
and I think when you're younger, what's in front of you in the moment seems like the end of the world. You think my parents are going to kill me. You think all different things, right?
Yeah.
So how do we teach or how do we show that to the practice of, okay, this is not that important in the big picture?
I saw this quote once and it was like, it will it matter in 5 years? Like,
Mm,
no, then don't stress about it for more than 5 minutes. So I think obviously that's really hard, but I think that's something that people just need to understand and think about. Like, okay, this friendship issue that I'm having in the moment,
yep.
like, will this really impact me in 5 years?
Mm,
Probably not. It's not that big of a deal. Yes, I can worry about it. I can stress about it a little bit in the moment, but like don't put too much thought into it where it like eventually burns you out and it prevents you from doing anything else that's important.
Now, you mentioned mental health, you mentioned work-life balance, and you mentioned life skills. If you
Mhm.
had to put that in a certain order from most important to least important, or in the order in which we present that. So, like, for example, do you think it's important that we teach you life skills so that your mental health is stronger, so that you can have a work-life balance? Or do you think you first need to address the mental health, so on and so forth? So do you think there's an order that in which it should be approached?
I think definitely mental health should come first because
Okay.
I feel like if you're not in a mentally stable position, then it prevents you from being able to do those regular life skills and to have a healthy work-life balance.
Okay.
Then it kind of comes down to life skills and work-life balance, which one's more important because they're both pretty important. But I would say maybe life skills and being able to have like independence in specific areas because if you're
Mhm.
not independent, then it's hard for you to have a healthy work-life balance where you can say, okay, I need to buckle down and do this important thing, and then
Mhm.
I can do this. And my mom, she always used to tell me, work hard, play hard. So get your
Mm,
homework done, get this done, and then you
yeah,
can go hang out with someone, and then you can go watch TV. So get the important stuff done, and then you can relax.
yeah.
Yeah.
I also like to believe that if you are doing what you love, then it won't feel like work when you get to
Yeah.
that stage. Hopefully,
Yeah.
if you're lucky enough to experience that. Okay, so with mental health, sometimes adults and schools and districts will feel like it's a sensitive topic to talk about with kids. Do you think that it should be avoided for that reason, or do you think it doesn't matter what your age is, you should be able to address it kind of head on?
I think I think people should be able to address it head on because I mean, no matter what age you are, you're always going to feel some type of stress. Doesn't matter like what it's about. Like even my sister, she could be like, "Oh, well, I don't know. I feel like I lost this, I don't know, stuffed animal." Like she's going to feel stress, and I feel
Yes.
like she has to be taught how to approach it in a good way. And
Help.
then later on, when she's older and she's stressing about more important things like, oh, this job interview or whatever, then she can take like those skills that she learned from the past that she's been practicing and then she can apply it later on. So I think
Okay.
it should be something that's addressed just no matter how old you are. I think as you get older, you can go deeper into the topic, but I think even at a young age, you should still be exposed to good ways to handle issues.
Do you think that it's something that should be within the curriculum, not just in those places, or it's fine just having it be like in a health class and with the counselor? Or do you think it should be kind of universally addressed throughout school?
I think it's fine the way it is because I feel like some people might not feel the need to access it, access like those resources, like a school guidance counselor, stuff like that.
Mm.
But I feel like if you want to talk to someone or you want to learn about those coping mechanisms, things like that, then it is available to you if you feel the need to use it.
Because obviously you have insight into the minds of 10th graders, soon to be 10th graders. What are some kind of patterns or trends that you notice with topics of mental health? Like, do you notice certain things that are more kind of at the surface, or an issue that you kind of feel like, okay, this is concerning and something you think needs to be addressed more than other things?
Okay, I'm not saying I do these things, but I notice
Mhm.
like peers of mine, like they use like substance abuse as
Mhm.
a way to cope with things. Even though they're addressed, like kids don't always get the message, like, okay, this is bad for me. And
Mhm.
they still just continue vaping, drinking, things like that.
Mhm.
So I think even though it is addressed, people could go into a little bit deeper of an explanation as to what exactly these things that you're doing now can cause for you in the future.
I agree, definitely. So preventative measures. Do you think though, when you're a teenager and in high school and there's social pressures and maybe there's other dynamics at play, like family life, home life, peer pressure, things like that, how do you get through to young kids? Because I think some of those kids, I would bet, do know the long-term effects, but they don't care. I would argue that probably some of those kids do know that they're not supposed to or shouldn't, or it's not the best idea, but we'll do it anyway. So how do you really address like the psychological reasons behind why people are making choices they are? Because we all do it. We all make choices we probably shouldn't. I shouldn't eat that bag of chips, but I want to eat it.
Yeah.
So how do you really get to the root, do you think?
Personally, I feel like if someone did like more visual examples of what would happen to me, like if I did drugs now and then like what I would look like in 5 years, I think then I would probably get the message. Um, yeah, things like that. I remember one time we were doing something along these lines, like how smoking really like affects you. And there was this one example where you would blow into a straw or you would try to breathe through a straw, and then that's how it would feel if like you were smoking. That's how you would be breathing. That was honestly something that really like got through to me. And I was like, okay, wait, that's how I would be breathing if I was smoking. So I think that's kind of turned me off from it. And
Okay.
I think, yeah, like showing examples of what could happen to
The
you,
realities.
yeah, would be a genuine way, I think, yeah, genuinely great way to get kids to stop.
What do you think it is that kids and adults, because it's not limited to just kids, are avoiding by trying to turn to substance abuse or, other ways of kind of either numbing or coping with whatever it is? What do you think it is at the root that they're trying to avoid?
Honestly, just kind of reality. Like, if you're in like a difficult situation and you don't want to deal with the mental health issues that come with those difficult situations, you want to use like substances that can help you have a temporary like
Break.
break, yeah, from those things. And then yeah, you want to, like, let's just say you're stressed about like a test and you're like, okay, I need to like go smoke or something and I just need a break.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, a healthy work life balance, like that's not really a healthy work life balance if you're using substances to cope with the things that's going on. So yeah.
What role do you think social media has played in relationships, in mental health, in work-life balance, in life skills?
I definitely think it impacts not just like me, but just other people in terms of like life skills, mental health, and like work life balances. Um, Starting with life skills, I feel like social media honestly can be really helpful sometimes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know there are some videos like on YouTube or on TikTok, and they're like, oh, how to do this. Like, so it's like
Very
how to
informative.
videos are very, very helpful sometimes. So I think
Yes.
social media can be helpful in terms of life skills, but mental health, I think sometimes it can be a little bit more draining. Because if you're like constantly checking your phone, like, oh, did this person send me a text? Did this person send me a text? Did I get a notification? Like, I feel like if you don't, then you can start feeling like sad, and you can start feeling like no one cares about you. Things like that
Mm.
can really negatively impact mental health. But it can also really help because there are certain apps nowadays, like mental health apps, that you can talk to people.
Yep.
And also it can help, like if you have a long distance friend, or you're in a long distance relationship and you want to be able to talk to those people where you can't usually.
Right.
I think it can provide happiness in those forms. But for work life balance, I also feel like it's kind of negative because sometimes, all like I do this. I'm studying for a test. I'm like, wait, did I get a notification from my friend? And I pick up my phone and I'm like, oh, I didn't. And then like 5 minutes later, I'll check again. Or if I'm bored studying for my math test, I'll pick up my phone and I'll scroll through TikTok for
Yep.
like a solid 20 minutes, and I just won't I
Yes.
won't do the studying that I'm supposed to be doing. So I think it can be helpful, but it can also be very, very damaging.
So it just seems like, and I completely agree, and this is something some other students have shared too, that if we were to teach certain strategies when it comes to making decisions, whether life skills or work-life balance or mental health, it is so closely all tied together. And it's just interesting to me because I do see the patterns that ultimately comes down to being able to make that decision,
Mhm.
being aware of making the decisions that are best for you, right? Being able to say, you know what, this is not good for me, or I notice I'm doing this and it's not good for me, or it is good for me, so I'm going to keep doing it. So encouraging that conversation so that kids are able to make
Yeah.
better decisions.
I think knowing what's best for you. Like, I know for me, if I'm really trying to get something done and I have my phone right next to me, I will be tempted to pick it up. So what I do is I'll have my phone near me, but I'll put it where I can't see it. So I'll put it like behind my iPad, behind my laptop, or
Mm,
like on the couch behind me. So it won't
mm.
be in my line of view and it won't seem like an option. I feel like, okay, like I'm not tempted to pick it up anymore. And I'm like, okay, let's focus on the thing that's really important.
So that's like a strategy. So you have that strategy in place because you
Yeah.
recognize that in yourself. This is what I need to do. So this is how I'm
Mhm.
going to do it. And I think that's similar to the life skills, except that if you don't have enough information, it's going to be overwhelming and maybe anxiety inducing because you're like, I don't know how to take care of myself. I don't know how to do this. So all of it is linked, right? Taking those baby steps. So
Yeah.
when it comes to, let's say, active shooters, or it comes to important issues like that that can impact one's mental health, that can impact one's outlook looking forward, how do you approach that, or how do you feel about that? Do you think those are things that should be addressed, should be talked about? Do you think it's better not to be addressed?
It is definitely something that should be addressed because it's current events. It's what's happening today. It's terrible, but it's happening today. It's like
Mhm.
it's similar to the whole Russian Ukraine thing that's going on.
Yeah.
It's like that's something that's being addressed. Like I know in my history class, my teacher would bring it up as a topic of conversation and we'd have like whole discussions about it.
Yes.
But we don't talk about things like shootings, which
Mm.
I think is personally kind of annoying because it's things that should be talked about, but they're not because it has to do with things like mental health.
So that honest conversation. When it comes to work-life balance in a classroom, I know you mentioned this a little bit earlier. What can teachers do to help you achieve that?
Providing breaks.
Okay.
Like, I think, okay, in my new school, classes are an hour long.
Okay.
So, yeah, they're like significantly longer than like my old classes would be. They would only be about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, So I think like now that my classes are an hour long, like I need a break here or there from like balancing equations or y equals mx plus b. Like I can't doing that for like an hour straight is just extremely draining and then moving on to the next class. So I think providing decently long breaks for students to just recharge and like have a second to maybe check their phone or like have a quick conversation with a friend
Hmm.
can really help improve like the performance of the students in general, and also can just help the students be more mentally healthy when it comes to not burning out.
What's a question that teachers can ask kids that would make you feel cared about, and that would make you feel heard, and that would make you feel like, okay, this teacher cares about my mental health?
Okay, actually, I was scrolling through TikTok a while ago and I stumbled across this video.
Love it.
It was a teacher, and she would ask her students, like, what was the worst part of my week? What was the best part of my week? And they would write it down anonymously on Post-its, and then they would hand them to her, and then she would read them out in front of the class.
Okay.
And then she would like give advice.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah, so I think honestly that if one of my teachers did that, I would be really happy. Like, they care about what's going on in my life. They care about helping me in my stressful situations. They want to know what's good about my week. They want to know what's terrible about my week. They
Yeah.
want to know like what's going on in my life so that they can help me feel like heard, understood, and seen. Where, like, I don't know, for example, your parents or your friends might not know what's going on, and
Right.
then it might cause like issues and just more mental health
More
issues.
complications.
Yeah.
As far as then life skills, I know you mentioned earlier how we can probably address that. You talked about managing money and maybe budgeting, which I do think is something that can definitely be addressed. I read a book once about a teacher who basically made the students, not with real money, but with fake money, made them rent out their desks. So they could earn money throughout the year, and they would earn that to pay their rent. And then that's how they learned about, and then eventually they could buy their desk and then buy their neighbor's desk, and then that neighbor would have to pay them rent. So all about investing your money and learning that way, which I thought was a genius
Yeah,
way.
I actually think that's a very fun idea because I mean, I think in the moment it doesn't seem like something that's gonna impact you, but like, and it seems more fun. It's like, oh, I get to have money, like pretend money.
Yeah,
But then in the future, it's like, okay, wait, this is something I can actually apply when I'm trying to buy a house or when I'm trying to spend money on groceries, things like that.
exactly. And I haven't actually tried it out fully yet, just because managing that is probably a lot. But I think that's something I do intend on trying out. So I really appreciate your thoughts. Please let me know about your writing journey and any updates that happen along the way. Please keep me posted. I'm always excited to hear from you.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Thank you. I'll talk to you later, I hope.
Okay, yeah, I hope so too.
Okay. Bye.